You need to speak up quite loudly. The folk who are listening online, watching online, hear Bishop Tom, but aren't hearing very well. Mark, it's that mic that's picking up generally, is it?
This is one that's picking up online.
Okay, we just need people to raise the volume a little bit.
Sure.
I'd just like to make a comment about ecumenical dimension, really. There's many of us here are from different Christian traditions, and it's wonderful actually that we're learning from each other and seeing what we're all doing on the internet. And in a sense, the internet maybe is something which is bringing us together to share ideas, and I'd just like to sort of see a way of taking this forward. Maybe it's receptive ecumenism in the sense that we're actually gaining from each other, and I wonder if you've got any ideas about how we could develop this or take this forward at all?
Well, yes, I think that's a dimension which should be factored into the whole receptive ecumenism project, though it is and isn't receptive. You may not all know what receptive ecumenism is. Durham is one of the world centres of it. Cardinal Casper in Rome is one of the main progenitors of it. Receptive ecumenism is when, instead of people saying, wouldn't it be nice if other churches could agree with us, we say, what gifts has God given to those other churches that he seems not to have given to us, which we need to receive from God through those other churches? And that's a wonderful open-ended way of asking the ecumenical question. And it seems to be, since the ecumenical movement has been rather running out of steam over the last generation, that's a great way of getting some things back on track, which I'm 110% in favour of and very keen on. Of course, ecumenical work is very anomalous at the moment, because mostly we get on really well ecumenically. The problems are often within our own denominations. You know, at the moment, Anglicans are quite good at ecumenical work. I have friends right across the board here in the northeast. The problem is making the Anglican thing work itself, and I suspect that some other churches which would feel the same. What I would say is, yes, when you find a new project that you're working on, for instance, we had a great youth event in the northeast here 2 or 3 summers ago, NE1, which brought together thousands of young people from across the region and from around the world, actually. And we all just pitched in ecumenically. I had the privilege of introducing the local Roman Catholic bishop to one of the local house church leaders on the first evening. I remember thinking, maybe this is what my role as an Anglican bishop is supposed to be, you know, trying to bring together. So if the question of digital revolution, what now, is a question which really knows no denominational barriers, fantastic. There are other questions like let's work at all of these together, learn about one another as we do so. In a sense, that's a common sense answer, but I'm glad you raised it in that context, because we should celebrate that and realise that your questions are our questions, are their questions, and let's go at it together.
I want to return us to the universal local discussion and mix that up with identity Gnosticism issues, because I think the natural reaction of many people is to view the online world as a series of new localities. So a kind of fresh expressions question would then be, well, how do we plant church in these localities? But that, I'm aware, brings you automatically into that question of identity and Gnosticism. But I think we have to grasp some of that and some reflections on that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a reflection on that which has been hovering around for a bit and was referred to in the 2 initial summaries, which is who gets to win and who gets to lose, as it were, in the digital world. And obviously you have to possess and own the means of the technology, and though it is massively widely available, so that it comes as a surprise to some people that, you know, here is this great thing going on in Iran, and yeah, all these people in Iran are twittering about it, and so on. And that's, in a sense, that's great. That is empowering. That is meaning that societies cannot be shut off from the outside world by dictators. At the same time, there are other dictators who are running bits of that outside world, and hence back to Colin's question about globalization. Do we know who's actually pulling the strings and calling the shots? The question was asked at Lambeth in '98 that the first world bishops all came equipped with snazzy internet technology, so that whatever they wanted, they could sort of call up resources from here and there. A lot of the third world bishops just didn't have that kind of backup. How do you have a wise discussion when some people are resourced and others aren't by this new means? So we do need constantly to be asking that question. because I'm assuming that there are still trillions of people in the world who do not have access to this, and does the whole thing then become a rich person's game? A Western game which we graciously share with such of the rest of the world as can. And I really don't know the answer to that.
I'm going to try and be loud and ask
Yeah.
a corollary question and hope I get picked
Go
up.
on, I'll repeat it. I'll repeat it.
I've got the mic.
Yeah.
Is the logic of your question that we shouldn't plant churches in rich communities?
Planting churches, it seems to me, needs to be done everywhere, all the time, constantly. There's always a need to plant churches all over the place. However, whatever the community, it will have its own pride, its own problems, its own this, its own that, and that's one of the reasons why independence is very, very dangerous, because people can flatter themselves that we're really it, and why interdependence. In a diocese like this one, Durham, most of this diocese is old white working class in a post-industrial wasteland of post-coal, post-steel, post-ships, post-this, that and the other. There are a few churches which are well off and which contribute massively more to the diocese than their own parish needs. And that's necessary because, I mean, I've got a thriving church I could take you to 20 miles away from here, where there's about 100 regular members doing a great job, of whom 4 are wage earners. 4 out of 100. That is extraordinary. And so they give generously. They need so you hear what I'm saying. So transpose that question then back into the question about the digital. Yes, plant churches in cyberspace, but a church is a community of people who are energized by their worship of God to go out and make a difference in their community. And making a difference means checking out on the poor and the homeless and the policies pursued by the local regional authority, whatever it is, and being an agent of change and renewal and refreshment within that. So, you know, insofar as the cyberspace can do that, go for it, great. But don't imagine that it stays with the transmission of ideas and even spirituality from one brain or heart to another. It's got to have to do with bodies, or it isn't Christianity.
Yeah. I just want to come out to this geographical rootedness thing. A very brief anecdote. I live in the south of France, flew over a few days ago and arrived in this marvellous, almost hyperreal theme park that we call Durham. Now, my wife is deeply rooted in physicality, especially when it comes to food, and she gives me this shopping list of stuff you can't buy in French supermarkets. So Monday afternoon I set off on this quest to actually buy food in the centre of Durham, and basically came back pretty much having failed to get half the things on the shopping list. It doesn't actually seem to me that Durham is geographically rooted, or if it is, there must be a lot of thin people here, because there isn't actually a working supermarket in the centre of Durham, and Durham only works because people move out to do this other kind of stuff. So really what I'm wondering is how much of this concern about geographical rootedness, which is crystallised, if you like, on the internet, is actually a concern about modern life in general. How much have we already missed the boat on geographical rootedness? And if I can be a little bit provocative, if that wasn't already, it's one of the reasons we talk so much about church planting in low-income communities, is because actually that model hasn't fitted middle-class communities for the last 50 years, and we just haven't actually noticed.
Sorry, which model has?
Well, the model of geographical rootedness, that middle-classness hasn't been geographically rooted for half a century now.
Okay.